Hello everyone, I'm Morgan, and today I wanted to talk to you about 5 literary mysteries that I love. A while back I talked about doing this video because I think the mix of literary fiction and mystery is just perfection, mostly, because, well, for one, literary fiction, so it's like good writing, basically. I mean, anything could be literary fiction, but other than that, I don't know, it has a focus, I don't know, on characters and on writing and just something a bit special. And with a mystery driving the story, it just becomes great. And I thought also that it would be very good for this season because mysteries are just great in fall and winter, I would say. So let me tell you about 5 books that I have here that I loved and that I would consider literary mysteries. The first one is actually a classic, and it is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I read this one, I think, last year. I had owned it for a few years before reading it. I'm absolutely crazy about this cover, and I really want more books in this collection. But other than that, it was one of the first Gothic books that I ever read. And I loved it. The setting was just amazing. This is the story of a girl. I don't remember her name because I never remember names. But basically, she is said to have killed all of her family. Basically, everyone in the village thinks she did it, but no one has proof. And so she lives alone with one of her friends. I mean, she's kind of family, but not really, and her uncle. And they're the only ones who have survived, and all the others have died while they were at dinner. And it's this huge thing, and so she has this reputation in the village for being maybe a killer, and so everyone looks at her all funny, and they don't want to let her in, and it's just kind of crazy. But what I loved was, I don't know, first, well, I didn't remember her name now, Mary Cat. So our main character, I loved her. I thought she was great, and I loved the other characters and the setting. It was just so atmospheric, and I liked that there was kind of a mystery, but it's so subtle. And I loved it so much. I think it's a great book. I know not everyone loves it, but I mean, not everyone loves everything. It's life, you know? But I really love this one. The second book I want to talk about is one I read earlier this year, and it is White Tears by Harry Kunzru. I read this one not so long ago, and I didn't know what to expect, and it was so crazy. Basically, it's just about these 2 kind of 20-something guys who are very into records and have this record shop. One of them has a lot of money, the other not so much, but he's very good at sound engineering, basically. He just records sounds in the streets and then uses it to make music, and he's kind of a genius at it. And his friend has a lot of money, and basically they're, I don't know, they have this studio and they make music. But at some point in the story, they start hearing someone singing in the recordings, and they don't know who it is, who he comes from, and they're trying to find him, but then they get involved in something and you don't really know what's happening, and it gets more and more, I don't know, it gets weirder and weirder, and there's just this thing happening. It's really a wild ride, and it was great. I didn't know what I was getting into, but it was extremely thrilling. Like, this was so good, and the mystery, like, you really didn't know what was happening, and I loved it. So yeah, this one was great. The next book is one of my favorite books of all time, and it is Secret History by Donna Tartt. You probably have heard about this one, but it's about these 5 college students in Vermont So we follow mostly Richard, our main character, who meets these four people who are extremely, well, who are quite rich and intimidating, and he just really wants to be part of their club, and he becomes part of it, but he always feels like an outsider. I've heard people say that if you can relate to some of the characters, then you are probably a terrible person. I don't know if that's true, but I totally related to Richard because he was not perfect. He was extremely flawed, and I thought that was really interesting. I love unlikable characters. I mean, I don't actually think he's unlikable. I really liked him and many of the characters in this story. Of course, they did do bad things. I mean, the prologue actually tells you that they have killed someone, and then you get back in time and you're trying to get to that point to know how it happened. And even then, you don't get all of the story. And it's just, Donna Tartt is so good at like trying to make you feel like you're getting information when really she's giving you something else, and then you forget what you're trying to know and you're just in the story, and it's so cool. And I love the character so much, and I'm always looking for a book that is like this one, but I haven't found it. It's unique. Again, not everyone likes this book. Some people think that they're just hateful, basically, those characters. I don't agree. You might agree, whatever. But I love this book to my whole heart and with my whole heart. And I think it's such a wild ride. Next is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I read this, I think it was last year, around this time of year, and I think I read it actually on Halloween. And I thought it was perfect because that day, like, it was raining really hard, it was quite cold, and it just went so well with the atmosphere of this book, because, so if you don't know, Rebecca is about this woman who meets this man in the south of France, and then he asks her to marry him quite quickly, and he goes back with her to this place. What's it called again? In Manderley. And basically, the thing is, his wife, Rebecca, had died not so long before, and you can still feel her in the house like a character. And it's crazy because, you know, she's dead during the whole book, but she really feels like she's there. And I don't know, it was so good. I loved it, and it's perfect for this time of year, so if you want it, do it. And the last literary mystery that I would like to talk about is The 13th Tale by Diane Satterfield. This one is historical fiction and a mystery, and I was so surprised by this one. I didn't think I would like it that much, but in the end I thought it was really, really great, and the more I think about it, the more I think it was even more amazing. So it's about this woman who starts who goes to interview an old woman. I'm always talking about women and men like they don't have a name and they're not specific, but that's just what I remember every time. So she goes to interview this woman who was really known. She was one of her favorite authors, and she sees this as a huge chance, and no one has ever known the secrets that she was hiding, so she sees this as the occasion that it is, and she seizes it. But she has peculiarities, like she doesn't want to tell her the whole story in the beginning. She tells it in her own time because she is also dying, so she needs rest sometimes. And so we see the parts where she's telling the story, and then we go back in time to that story. And there was so many twists and turns. I was on the edge of my seat. I thought it was great. And the story also was really touching, and I don't know, it was such a great book, and I didn't expect that. So yeah. But anyway, that was the last of the books. I hope you enjoy this. Please tell me if you have any other literary mysteries that you have loved, as I would love more recommendations. But I would really recommend these ones, and I'm going to keep reading literary mysteries, hopefully. Though there aren't that many, I feel like. But yeah, these ones are great. Thank you for watching. Please tell me if you have any recs, as I said, and if you have read any of these books and if you enjoyed them like I did, or didn't. That's also interesting. But anyway, everything in the comments. Thank you for watching, and goodbye! Dream I know, deep up my feelings for you.